okay? Okay. We're just waiting for the online session on the YouTube. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants of the UNFCCC's 26th of the Contracting Parties meeting. Welcome to Turkish Pavilion. I would like to greet you on behalf of the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. Today, we are now gathering for the second side event of the Turkish Republic. The main and very important issue is going to be the circular economy and zero waste experiences from different countries. Now, in short, I would like to give the floor to the moderator, Mr. Ian Gallan, for his presentation. Okay. The floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. I do feel slightly nervous this morning. 2 reasons. This is real people. I don't know about everyone else, but got used to the virtual world, just worrying about which buttons to press and demuting myself, and here we are in real world. So welcome. That's going to be have to get used to it again. And the other thing I'm really nervous about is I'm obviously Scottish. I'm not Turkish, and I'm hosting this session in the Turkey Pavilion. Although the Scottish Pavilion is just next door, so I'm feeling slightly connected. So hopefully I do good for our friends in Turkey. So anyway, we're going to talk about the circular economy. We're going to talk about zero waste and the opportunities around that in terms of addressing climate change, because after all, this is the COP26 event. So I'm going to bring in my co-presenters, co-discussion people. So this is Pauline. Their names are behind me. So this is Pauline from New London. This is Alex from Circular Norway, and this is Sadia from Turkey, from the government of Turkey. So we're going to just have a chat. So the whole idea is really to have a discussion, find out a little bit more about what's happening, not just in Scotland, here we are in Scotland, but from the other countries as well, including obviously from the City of London. But just as a way of introduction, obviously our resources on the planet are finite. I think we all recognise that now. In fact, 50% of climate emissions come from the extraction of raw materials for the production, the manufacture, the consumption, and ultimately the waste of materials and products at global levels. That's 50% of climate change comes from that. 90% of global biodiversity loss and water stress comes from that extraction process as well. So, but it's something we don't really talk about when we're discussing climate change, that consumption habit that we all have, not just here in Scotland, but globally, in terms of the stuff that we buy, the stuff that we need, and ultimately having the impact that that's having, again, not just on climate change, but biodiversity, on communities, on, just injustices all over the planet. And we know what a huge impact that is having, not just here in Scotland, but globally. So we released a report earlier this year that estimated that the Scottish economy consumes 100 million tonnes of materials every year. 100 million tonnes. Now, put another way, that's 18.4 tonnes of materials per person per year in Scotland. Scientists would say that the most sustainable level of consumption is around 8 tonnes per person per year. So we're already consuming more than double what we should be. Now, we've no reason to believe that Scotland's unique in that. I think it's safe to say that lots of other countries around the world are consuming at that level as well. So that's why the Scottish Government and ourselves, working together with a number of partners, have really developed a lot of programs to transition to a more circular economy. The circular economy is hugely important for us, not just in terms of reducing climate emissions, relieving the pressure on the natural systems both here in Scotland and globally, It's also important in terms of pollution, in terms of, we've all seen what the impact is in terms of plastics, in the marine environment, clearly evidence that the linear system is not working. But also we see the circular economy as a great economic boost for Scotland in terms of jobs. So in Scotland, although we've all got the recycling habit, people are moving materials out of one bin, putting it into another bin, we still export the vast bulk of our materials, which is probably something we'll talk about. So for every one job there is in the collection of materials for recycling, there's another 8 jobs in the reprocessing, refurbishment of those materials back into the economy. So we're exporting jobs, we're exporting economic opportunities, so it's something that we'd really like to address, as well as the environmental aspects of the circular economy. The global picture is that the circularity gap that was carried out by the Circular Economy Organisation in the Netherlands would say that the degree of circularity globally is less than 10%. So clearly we've got a lot of work to be doing, both individually in our own countries, but more importantly collectively, to close that gap. So we're going to hear from my colleagues about what's happening in their parts of the world, the challenges, but more importantly the opportunities, because that's really what this is about. The circular economy is a massive opportunity. We believe it's an opportunity in terms of climate change. We believe it's an economic opportunity as well. But I wonder why we're not really taking it as seriously as we should when we have discussions about climate change. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to first of all ask Sadia to talk a little bit about yourself and what's happening in Turkey and what brings you here today.
Thank you very much, Ian. Actually, you have pointed out that the resources are not infinite for all of us, for all countries, and we have to protect the natural resources, water, mines, and also energy. And in order to achieve this, we need cooperation, in my opinion. Cooperation between countries, and within the country we need cooperation between public bodies, industry, and academicians, and NGOs as well. In Turkey, we have initiated Zero Waste project in 2017, and then it has been supported by the highest political level in Turkey, by the presidency, and our First Lady Emine Erdoğan has supported the Zero Waste project, and then it has been a state policy, and now it's mentioned in all our national plans and also development plans in Turkey. And we had many achievements within 3 years, actually. Zero waste means, basically the prevention and the minimization of waste. And after that, source separation and recycling of waste. Now we are trying to improve the recycling rate. When the project has been initiated, it was only 13%. Now it is 22.4% in Turkey, the recycling rate of municipal waste. And we would like to improve this to 35% and more in 2023, which is the 100th anniversary of Turkish Republic. And on the other hand, we are trying to train people within 3 years, because we believe that training is very important, because you need to change the habits, and it's a really big challenge, especially for adults, not children, but for adults. Changing of behaviors, habits is really hard. So within 3 years, we have trained 13.5 million people zero waste in zero waste field. and we continue this training activities. On the other hand, we support, I'm from Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change, it's the brand new name. And we are supporting municipalities in technical and financial means to build this zero waste and separate collection system. And after zero waste project, we have started to award a certificate. It's a basic certificate. If, as an institution or as a hospital, education center, let's say, if you are separating your waste, you are awarded with a basic level of zero waste certificate. Or for the municipalities, if you are collecting the waste within the service area, you are awarded the same. And we have also qualified certificate for which you have to do something to minimize your waste, for example, to decrease biodegradables, for example, or you have to make green deals like this. And we execute this zero waste project in Turkey because it's a very close relationship with circular economy.
Yeah.
And also industrial symbiosis. Mainly the main point is the same, in my opinion. If you consider the industry, for example, in Turkey, we have, for example, cement industry, ceramic industry, and they can use waste instead of having a mine, for example, or extractive minerals. They can use waste, and in last year they used 3.3 million tons of waste as alternative raw material, which is a very good example for circular economy, in my opinion. We would like to improve this because in Turkey we have some main sectors as all of the countries, and we would like to improve this circular economy, and we would like to make them more circular, both industry and business, in the future.
Okay, okay. So I'm interested because you also import quite a bit of materials, particularly plastics and such like. So do you think does that help that idea of a circular economy, the fact that you have more resources coming into your country as well as the resources that you already have? Do you think that, or is that actually a hindrance to some of this?
You mean the plastic importation to Turkey?
Yeah. Does that help the idea of industries getting more involved in the circular economy?
Actually, we should, about this issue, we should keep in mind that Turkey has a really very high potential of recycling sector. And we have many recycling facilities, and we can benefit from this plastic waste. On the other hand, by this year, we have prohibited the importation of mixed plastic waste to Turkey. And it was a good step because you know that plastic, but what plastic? Which plastic? So the recycling process is varying depending on the type of the plastic.
Yeah.
So now it's a really good step for improvement of this plastic recycling in Turkey.
Yeah. It's just very different from Scotland because we seem to be pushing as I said, we're pushing all of our materials out of the country, which is, seems really odd if you're trying to create employment, as I've said, why would you do that? But anyway, we'll come back to that. So I'll turn to Alex from Norway, whatever you want to give because I mentioned the international circularity gap, but you've already looked at that as a country, at a country level, but a little bit explanation about who Circular Norway are and where you are in that journey.
Yeah, so I'm Alexander Christensen from Circular Norway. So we are an impact organization in Norway, supporting businesses, municipalities, and the government in the transition from a linear economy to a circular economy. So what really brings me here to COP26 is to communicate the enormous potential we see in the circular economy. So if you're looking at the pledges that the nations have put forward so far, they are very energy focused. But we really need to also include the circular economy in order to reach the 1.5 degree targets and the 2 degree targets. And I think it's interesting to look at the globe first here, because I was mentioning the Circularity Gap Report, and the global one telling us that the circularity gap is 8.6% circular. That's what we are today. The bad news is that it was 9.1 just a couple of years ago, so we are moving in the wrong direction. But the good news is, if we are doubling the metric, the 8.6 metric, we are in a trajectory to reach the 2 degree target. And that's something we need to bring with us in the conversation here in Scotland these 2 weeks, I think. So looking at the big opportunities in the circular economy. And for Norway then, we released the Circularity Gap Report for Norway just a year ago. And today the Norwegian economy is 2.4% circular. That means only 2.4% of the resources we use every year to satisfy our societal needs, like the housing, the infrastructure for transportation, healthcare, etc. Only 2.4% makes it back to the economy again. So that means the Norwegian economy is more than 97% linear. But that also provides a huge opportunity, because how are we making the transition down? And in the report, we was also looking at how can we make the Norwegian economy more circular. And we was looking into scenarios in the construction industry, transportation, etc. So we was looking at 6 different scenarios. And for each of these scenarios, we was able to lift the circularity index. But the real benefits are coming when we are combining all the scenarios. We are looking at the economy as a whole. And then we can lift the circularity index of Norway from 2.4 to 46%. And then really slash the carbon emissions. And think about that. Okay, if we are doubling the global index, what's really the potential for Norway then, if we are moving in the circular direction then, in order to reduce the carbon footprint that we are a part of?
Okay, lots of, yeah, I mean, I guess starting from a 2.4, there's loads of opportunities. So I think we'll come back to that, but I'll introduce Pauline from London. So obviously a big city like London probably has its own challenges in this space as well in terms of resources, but also loads of opportunities. Clearly there must be loads of opportunities. So.
Yeah, very happy to be here today. Thanks a lot for the invitation and for this great subject. I think it is really important that we talk about the circular economy and the way we consume our resource at COP, because this is really a big challenge. So it's obviously tackling emissions from the energy production and transport is really important. But as Ian said, around half of our emissions globally come from all the stuff we consume. And circular economy provides a great solution for that, to actually make sure we produce only the things that we really need, and we are able to keep the materials in use for longer. And it's a huge potential for tackling our emissions by changing the way we produce and consume stuff. So at Tree London, we are a partnership between the Mayor of London and the London boroughs, and really our mission is to tackle those consumption-based emissions in the city, so all the emissions that arise by our consumption habits from the citizens and from the businesses. And we work with the London boroughs, the local governments. We work with businesses, and we run communication campaigns to really promote a more circular way to live. So basically it means obviously recycling, but there is also a lot of work to do, like upward the waste hierarchy, so basically incentivizing and giving the tools for citizens to reuse more, share, repair, and rent instead of owning more stuff. And once again, this is like a real opportunity to tackling consumption-based emissions. And from a city perspective, obviously we have a big responsibility because of the way we consume, but as you know, you all said this is actually a big opportunity from an economic point of view and also from a resilience point of view, because basically the circular economy means that instead of having a linear economy where we import lots of stuff in London and we are quite reliant of like the global economy and the global extraction of raw material, it means that we bring back all those jobs and all the supply chain closer to where the consumer is. So it means basically more jobs and a more resilient supply chain. So as we just came through the COVID pandemic, we think, and the Mayor of London is really pushing for the recovery to be greener and to be more circular. So we are very happy to be part of that transition.
Okay, that's great. So, but it still kind of begs the question, so why aren't we talking about this more in this COP26, the impact of resources? It still doesn't feel, lots of stuff about energy, renewables, electrification of vehicles, transport systems, all of it, but it just doesn't seem to be as much chat about the impact of resources as you said, it's 50%. I just wonder if you have any idea why we don't talk about this. Is it because when we do talk about it, we suddenly realise we're only doing 2.5%? So we all like to boast slightly that we're all doing very well on renewables and we've all got hidden targets. But when we talk about resource use, it's not a good picture, is it? Do you think that's? I mean, how did that go down when you discovered you're only 2.4% circular? How did the politicians feel about that?
Yeah, it was really a shock for the Norwegian politicians. So when we released the report, it got headlines in Norway because Norway is very used to have a very high score in sustainability index. And when we then telling Norway that we are only 2.4% circular, then people start questioning, and then I think it's a knowledge gap. People really don't understand why are we so little circular, and then we need to look into the Norwegian economy and how that operates. And Norway is a country where we extract a lot of resources like minerals, fossil fuels, biomass. And we also are a country that import a lot of resources. So we have a very high material footprint that is actually abroad. And that is also the emissions that we have. We are creating a lot of emissions abroad because we are importing all these resources. And since we also have a very high spending power, rich countries have a lot of spending power, then we are in a position to buy a lot of different stuff. And what's really characterized the Norwegian economy is that we are building up a big stock with houses, cars, boats, and things like that. And we're not able to get that back into the economy again. And I think there is a struggle with a knowledge gap here. People are not thinking about the circular economy as a solution for the climate change. And also, a lot of people are very focused of end-of-pipe solutions. We're just going to fix the economy at the end of the pipe. But we really need to look up into the start of the value chain. How are we designing the products? How are we make sure that they last longer, have a better quality? Can we repair the products? And are we making to develop new business models where we share different things, like the cars or the boats or even houses? So it's about, to me, a mindset. We need to change how we are thinking about this. And if you are able to change that mindset a little bit and turn it into this opportunity, because then it's a huge opportunities for extremely interesting business models when we're starting thinking about using digital technology to support this transition from the linear to the circular.
Good. So mindset, I love that word. Is it just a new mindset?
Yes.
That was happening in Turkey now?
Yeah, I believe that it's a must, let's say. Actually, I think that we have three choices. First of all, is going back to roots. Local production, local consumption, but it's not possible. It's a global world. So we have to do something for green transaction. Because we can't go back and live in our country, close the doors, and it's not possible. For example, we are drinking coffee from Kenya, Guatemala, and you are wearing the textile from Turkey, for example.
Very nice.
So it's not possible in our world, but we can do this with this opinion of SGD 12, consumption responsibly and production responsibly. That's the key point, I guess, because it fixes everybody in the community. For example, for a citizen at home, at work, if you behave in this way, you're thinking and considering responsible consumption and responsible production. It's the key point. Even if you are a business or an industry, it doesn't matter, or a state, you are making policy. This is the key point, in my opinion, for the green transition to a circular economy.
So I agree with that, because I think that's the thing I keep saying, you know, the whole idea of the circular economy, it has to be all of us. I mean, you could argue the whole climate change has to be all of us, but the circular, we all have to be, for all the reasons. We're not talking about insularity here, countries withdrawing into themselves. This is about global cooperation on our goods and services. Because I always think cities, I mean, you live and breathe it, because you don't extract, you don't dispose within the city boundaries. It's a completely different environment. So you have to, we're not going to just ban cities overnight just because they're unsustainable. So I just wondered, but why isn't, you don't, with every respect, the mayor doesn't talk about the circular economy very often, does he? When he's talking about London's green agenda.
Yeah, I think the mayor is very, committed on the circular economy, and we do push a lot on that. I think it's the wider discussion on climate that, once again focus a lot on, energy, transport, etc. I think one of the, I guess there are like two main reasons. I think the first one was kind of mentioned, is that it's not one solution fits all, and it's a lot of small steps. So I guess it's more complex. It's a systemic change, and it's a small step of behavior that needs to change. And the second reason is that actually, for the circular economy, the solution usually is somewhere which is not where the emission actually arise. So for London, our consumption-based emission that comes from all the stuff we consume, it's more than 3 times what we actually emit just in the city. And once again, we have a responsibility for that, but it's a bit harder to account for and to measure it, which is probably why it hasn't been the first focus. So I think the fact that the solution is partly in the hands of those who actually doesn't emit, which is probably one of the things that make that a bit harder to take into account. But I think there is a rising concern about it, and a rising awareness about the fact that the circular economy is actually part of the solution. So hopefully an event like this one is gonna push that further up into the agenda.
Okay, so you talked about your zero waste initiative in Turkey being kind of led by the government, obviously, but your First Lady as well, you mentioned. So I guess I'm interested, so who is driving this? Is that, is that businesses responding to that, or are individuals responding to that? Who's really taking this forward now? Or is it still a kind of pushing the heavy rock up the hill, trying to get engagement, or are people thinking, yeah, we're up for this?
Yeah, it's a very big campaign, and also state policy. So it's supported by all parties in Turkey, in industry, by the industry, by the institutions, other ministries, and this is very important in my opinion, because now we are facing with Green Deal, for example, and we are in a very good cooperation with Minister of Industry, Minister of Trade, because we have to do this. We can achieve this with the cooperation and also by the contribution of the industry, because as
Are they buying into it? I guess that's the thing. Our business is buying into it. I mean, you're obviously leading from the top, but are individual businesses saying, yeah, this is the right thing, or do they feel, oh, here's more regulation, here's more, you know, what we have to do type of thing?
Actually, you have pointed a very good the idea. The industry wants to sell its items and the products, and they have to do something for this green transaction and also Green Deal and also circular economy. Now we are discussing on the same table how can we achieve this. Of course, with some studies on this environmental requirements, we sometimes discuss the rules with the industry and also the other ministries. But now it's a must. Not a, you know, that, okay, it's just for my trade reputation, or no, it's a must now.
It's a must. Okay. So what about Norway? Are businesses driving this, or is it still top down, or is it even bottom up from citizens?
I think it's the businesses that driving the agenda in Norway. And looking at, for example, the Circularity Gap Report we talked about, it was the businesses that was funding doing that report, because they want to understand, where are we standing now? Where is the starting point for Norway? So they are really driving the agenda. But what we also see is that with the EU Green Deal, as you mentioned, and the Circularity Action Plan from the EU, it's really impacting Norway. So the Norwegian government was coming with a strategy on the circular economy this year, and it's really a mirror what's going on in Europe. So we are trying to reflect the rules and requirements that is coming from Europe in Norway as well. But it's the businesses that are driving the agenda. And I think we have some very strong businesses in Norway. For example, Tomra, it's a recycling company. So when you're recycling the bottles, and they are back to the 1970s, they have been doing this and has a lot of experience that I think a lot of Norwegian companies use that knowledge and experience. And we have also companies like Hydro that is recycling aluminium, and Celsa that is recycling steel. So it's the businesses that are driving the agenda, indeed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we talked to the construction industry just a couple of weeks ago, and they're really asking the governments, you need to come with the rules and regulations, so you're setting the level field for how we should operate, because they are very keen driving this together. And again, it's not just one company, it's the value chain, and we all need to be a part of it.
So, yeah, so I'm quite interested in this. So sometimes I think in Scotland, where we obviously have a circular economy programme, I quite often think there's two conversations going on though. There's a conversation with the waste industry around the circular economy and how that is disrupting or impacting on their business model, the linear economy. And there's another conversation going on with businesses, particularly around innovation, around new services, new products, new ways of working, you know, and some of that's very consumer focused as well. And I'm sometimes I get challenged that those two conversations are not in the same room. And one of them is really exciting. One of them is kind of entrepreneurship and disrupting and startup companies. And I know there's quite a lot of that in London as well. You know, and the waste one is still very much, you know, based on the regulation and all of the things. You know, quite rightly. You know, it's all about pollution control and all the things that we need to. So I wonder whether that's even look at London then. Do you have that similar thing in London, or is there a conversation happening in the same room?
No, I think this is kind of similar in terms of, you know, I think now this is the missing link, and I guess it's a bit more, you know, it's even more general than that, because, you know, all the entrepreneurs, the innovators we are mentioning, they are bringing all the solutions. So I think all the solutions are pretty much out there, you know, from a system for you to rent stuff, you know, your drill instead of buying one, from a food surplus redistribution, to like a sharing platform for your garments, for example. So all the solutions are there, those kind of innovation solutions, but I think the issue is it's quite small scale, and as you say, it's not linked with the kind of the wider supply chain. So obviously, you know, with the waste management companies that, you know, are still working in a pretty much like linear system, even though you have innovators that manage to recycle quite, you know, hard to recycle material and produce like quite, you know, innovative product from recycled material. But it's the same, you know, I guess in the fashion sector as well. You have those innovators that, you know, have those kind of small scale sharing platform, but still the fashion brands still work in a very linear economy. So we are, I think, at this stage where we need to scale all those innovation and to make it the norm. So yeah, and definitely the solution is about, you know, bringing all those people together, making awareness to the consumer and bringing that gap. So, and at Real London, we are currently working on an online platform. So we are doing that, you know, in our scale, and we are developing an online platform to actually make those connections between, so that we can scale all those very good ideas, all those very good small-scale projects, and make it like a norm for everyone. So the platform is going to launch in January. I'm quite excited about it, and yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So is that similar in Norway? Do you think there's two conversations, or have you managed to bridge that?
I think they're coming more together. 5-6 years ago, the circular economy narrative was just about recycling, and now everything is changing. They are thinking more up in the value chain, and also the waste industry are a part of that thinking. They realize that if they are continuing like they've done, there will not be a part of the business in the future, so they are changing themselves. And of course, a lot of industries are also challenging them, and they want to play an important role in the circular economy. So they are trying to change their business models, but of course there are some tension in this discussion.
To the tensions in oil and gas, isn't it? That's what I think.
Oh
We need to
yeah,
get out of waste.
that's another one.
I can say that 'cause
No,
you've
but
got
no,
all-
but this is an important one, because Norway is oil and gas nation, and oil and gas has no place in a circular economy. So I think we need to be able to address the difficult questions and talk about them and how we are making this transition. Because when I look at the oil and gas industry, it's an industry with a lot of competence. And that competence we can use in other sectors, in other industries. So we need to do that transition together also.
It's interesting because it might be controversial, but, you know, we talk about getting out of oil and gas, but we need to get out of waste as well. Waste doesn't have a role in the circular economy.
No.
But absolutely, the waste industry has lots of competencies and skills and all of that to deploy.
Yeah, and they can change themselves and use that differently.
Absolutely. And I think it comes back to what you started with about, you know, reusing the materials in your economy. Because as we go forward, you know, there's a statistic I keep coming back to, and forgive me, I can't remember where I read it. But if all of the net zero plans that are being announced today, if we're going to be serious about that and achieve it, something like 70% of the infrastructure that we need globally to reach the net zero goals hasn't been made yet, hasn't been developed, hasn't been created, hasn't been built, whether that's actual structures or electric charging points or you name it. It doesn't. What are we going to make that stuff from? Where are these resources going to come from? So that the huge majority of them are actually already deployed in our economy, whether that's precious metals or concrete or steel or otherwise. So how do we utilize that? How do we harness that? And it comes back to your point. How do we get industry to see that as an asset rather than going out and winning more from the Earth's surface? So it is about that, changing that mindset. So I was going to open it up. I was going to ask one question for all of us. Well, for you three, I'm not going to answer it. So who's doing, who inspires you in terms of the circular economy? Is it when you look out from Turkey, do you see another country, another city, another company or something that you think that's the type of businesses we want to have here in Turkey? Or is it, do you aspire to be another country, or are you looking to learn from someone else?
About circular economy, now we are in a phase that to prepare our own roadmap, let's say. We will prepare our national circular economy action plan, and we, thanks to EU funds, we will initiate a project at the end of this year. And next year, hopefully, we will have a draft of this action plan. And you know that there are some main sectors within EU Circular Economy Action Plan, and most of them are complying with Turkey's main sectors. Yeah. For example, food, for example, textile, and plastics, electronics, batteries. Most of them are complying with Turkey's priorities, let's say. So first of all, we will have a sectoral analysis, and also we will study together with the related institutions and also industrial bodies. Then we will figure out this roadmap.
Okay, so we could help you with that. Scotland, we have our own strategy since 2016. And so we're quite happy to share with you. But it's quite interesting. So we really originally did look at sectors, and absolutely we've traditionally always worked in sectors, oil and gas, manufacturing, food and drink, clearly. And we did a lot of analysis of the opportunities for, economic opportunities and environmental opportunities in sectors, and continue to do that. But I think that one of the ways that we really got going on the circular economy was in the place-based activity with the cities. So we developed specific partnerships with particularly Glasgow. So Glasgow is now recognised as one of the leading cities in terms of circular economy globally, and along with London. And we're now working with other cities in Scotland. And I think that really advanced our progress on the circular economy. So sector's very important, but I would also, advise you to think about how regional opportunities, particularly because you start to look at bespoke, particularly economic opportunities, and people buy into that because they can see the kind of supply chain more visibly sometimes, particularly even in Scotland, it's a small country. When you look at the macro picture, it still feels a bit, inaccessible for many of the actors to get their head around how they could actually change that at a national level, but very much at a local level, identifying the supply chains they could start to interfere with to some extent, realign them in a different way to create new economic opportunities. That was real success for us. So I don't know if do you agree with that in London? Do you think that's how the circular economy has worked better?
Yeah, I agree. I think we like to collaborate a lot with other, regional or city level authority. Well, obviously Scotland is one of them, but we have a strategic partnership with Circular Glasgow in particular, and we are involved in different European projects as well. For example, we work with 3 other cities, so Copenhagen, Helsinki and Hamburg, in a project around circular construction. So we haven't spoken a lot about it, but in the construction sector, tackling the emission linked to all the material that is used, it's quite significant. In London only, this is the most waste come from the construction industry. So this is really massive for cities like ours. So we need to collaborate together because the solutions are going to be the same, really. You know, it's about modular building. It's about being able to actually reuse and recycle construction material. It's about being able to refurbish existing buildings instead of demolishing it. So, yeah, this collaboration between cities and regional level is, you know, is really, really important for us.
And before I go to Alex, because it's not just cities and regions, the rural parts, very important. I mean, obviously you'll know, and hopefully you've had a chance to visit the beautiful north of Scotland in terms of rural island communities as well. So we've also got an initiative working with our Highlands and Islands partners to develop circular opportunities on the islands, particularly trying to develop, looking at the supply chains there and how, obviously at a different scale, but some of them are really quite exciting. I'm always a great believer that you can take island solutions into the urban environment and they can work, but you can't really take urban solutions out to the island. So good place to learn. And obviously Norway, you have that same rural aspect to your country as well that we have. So has that been important to you?
Yeah, and I think as we started discussing, every country has a different starting point, and every country is unique. So we need to figure out what's the best solution for the country, and as also you're seeing for the municipality or this rural part of the country. And here I think Norway has a way to go actually. Yes, we see good initiative in some cities, but it's also an opportunity for better collaboration between cities within Norway, but also connect those cities with other cities abroad in order to learn also from cities that maybe have the similar challenges and have the same structure. So I think the learning opportunity is enormous here.
Good. Okay, that's very good. So we could keep chatting, but I wonder if there was any questions from anyone or want to quiz our panel. Yes? Is there a microphone? I'm not sure. Is there a microphone? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Chap, two people over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was really interesting. I was wondering if you, many informal waste collectors have actually very high levels of efficiency in terms of like reuse and recycling of materials, particularly in the developing world. I wonder if there are any lessons to be learned from those kind of informal sort of sectors, particularly around waste management, or if your organizations have any partnerships with places that are outside of Europe. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have an answer to that?
Actually, nowadays, I must say that we are trying to make a secondary legislation on this informal collectors to organize them with the municipalities. Actually, there are many lessons learned up to now, and a very, let's say, perfect system doesn't work with this problem, to solve this problem. So now we are working on a different model to involve them in the system.
Yeah.
Formal system.
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
Okay.
we are studying on it.
So that's good. I mean, so my personal view, I think there is a lot to be learned. I think that's probably one of the things that we've kind of moved away from that, the informal system in a lot of countries, but I think it's almost, as you've said, almost a reinvention of that, in that how those systems operate can operate at a very local level and create significant economic benefit for the locality and the people involved in it. And I know there's lots of in a previous role, working with community groups, not just here in Scotland, but across Europe and outside of Europe, seeing that they saw trash, as they called it, as a means for lifting them out of poverty, although they were basically at the end of the pipe and picking over landfills, which is obviously something that we're keen not to see. But they, by reselling the stuff back in, they were earning money, and they were using that money to upskill themselves, train them, send their children to schools in other parts of the world. So I think that narrative around how trash is an economic opportunity is basically what the circular economy is all about. So I'm always keen not to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. How do you get those informal systems into the circular economy going forward? I don't think we've done that to any great extent in Scotland, but we work closely with the community organisations in Scotland, particularly around reuse and repair, and supporting them. So we now have a network of revolve shops, as we call them, which are second-hand stores, and it's like an accreditation program that we've developed for them, which has raised their profile in, there's about 140 of the stores around Scotland. It's raised their profile, it's increased their health and safety and their ability to present. They're now, their whole retail experience is as good as you would if you walked into any other shop. So it's not quite what you had in mind when you talked about outside of Europe in terms of informal systems, but they're very much part and parcel of our circular economy journey. And again, going back to the cities and regions, I think that's been another success, because that's very difficult for us at a national level to engage with those people. But when you get into the cities and regions, and even particularly the Highlands, they have a massive social enterprise network, and involving them in that circularity opportunities, particularly on islands and stuff like that, I think has just driven that further into the citizens that we wouldn't have done if we'd run national programs. I'm not against national programs, but having those partners on the ground have really helped us in recognising it. So I think, what you're saying about Turkey's intentions, I think we probably missed that as a nation early doors. We're trying to go home. I wouldn't say go back and reinvent it, but certainly understand how we can more formalise that system. So I don't know if there's something you've picked up in your...
Yeah, I think we're probably in a similar situation where the waste management sector is quite regulated to manage the environmental impact of that sector as well. But I guess, where I see the opportunity is more when communities take things further to actually have an impact before the waste is even created, with repair, common facilities or reuse, sharing, very local program, which really help, not producing waste in the first place, which should be our primary objective, really.
I say this quite often because the circular economy is a regenerative, redistributive opportunity. Even in Scotland, we like to truck all our resources out of our communities into the central belt, as we call it, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and build big facilities. And it's good for the environment because they're not going to landfill, but it's just the same thing about we're taking these resources, these valuable resources, whether they're being reprocessed or remanufactured or redistributed or reused or shared within the economy. We're taking these resources out of local communities, which I just, and I think that's the success for me of the circular economy, particularly if you think about how technology can enable it. We've all been working from home, we've all worked in our communities in the last 18 months. I think that's the bit of the circular economy I think we lose sight of sometimes if we just think of it as another recycling initiative. If we think it seriously about not just an environmental driver but an economic driver, you'll see the potential for those redistributive opportunities. And I think that's very significant to us in Scotland because of our rural, the rural parts of Scotland and, these regions, they've got resources. Why shouldn't we be working with the people on the ground to make more of them? So they're not dragging more resources in and then pushing them back out when they've used them, which is basically the linear model. Okay, there was another question. Sorry, friend. Turkey had three choices.
Turkey had three choices, and as far as I could see, we only got one of those choices. Do you remember what the other two were that you were going to tell us?
Actually, it's not only for Turkey, it's for, let's say, humanity or all the countries.
Right.
We can, I mean, we cannot go back to roots and close our doors in this global world. And on the other hand, we cannot use our resources, water, energy, everything. So we need to find another way, harmonization of all this, and it's the green transaction. Yeah. The third way, let's say, for all of us.
Okay. Yes. Another question over here. Sorry, you haven't got a microphone. Okay, thank you.
Hello? Hey, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. As a Turkish national, it's nice to see here we are discussing this in Turkish pavilion. I would like to hear the thoughts of the panel about the degrowth and the relationship between the circular economy and degrowth. Like, is this a romantic path to go, or is this a reality in our future? Like, do we need to develop everything all the time, or do we need to go to a path of like degrowth, like
Degrowth.
yeah,
Degrowth. Okay.
degrowth.
Who wants to answer that? Norway.
Yeah, we are all a part of this conversation of that we believe in the growth. I know everyone talking about the green growth and disconnect the growth from the resource extraction. I think it's we still can grow, but we can grow differently. We can grow in a way within the planetary boundaries, and the economy can grow with providing more services and do things differently. So the disconnection of the material consumption can be disconnected from the growth. That's my belief.
So I'm going to plug an event that we're running on Monday, if you're really interested in it, because we wrote a report, came out last year, about decoupling resource use from growth, and we report with some recommendations in the report about how you actually do that. We also made a film, which has actually been premiered on Monday night in a fringe event in COP26, and we've then got a panel afterwards who are going to talk about that, and these people are far more eminent in this than myself, so if you want to come along or watch it online, it'd be a really good opportunity, because absolutely, I guess the challenge is, what do you mean by growth? If it's growth and well-being, growth and happiness, no, absolutely, we want that, but I think you're right. If we're continually thinking in the monetary terms, then there's going to be a challenge because of that, all the things we've talked about. But I think we need to reshift that balance. We need to start thinking differently. But then this is why we're all here. This isn't just about decarbonising the energy system or making things feel greener, because there isn't enough. There isn't enough stuff. And it's causing a huge, as we all know, it's a feedback loop that's out of control to some extent. But more importantly, it's disadvantaging huge communities across the whole of the world. That's something we should all be thinking about, not just the climate change agenda. Tackling inequality has to be at the heart of everything that we do, both here in Scotland and everyone. And that should be the thing that we're all galvanised to get up for in the morning. And the continually winning materials from the earth isn't helping. We can see that. And I'm sure there are people from other countries where that is having more significant impact. Friend.
Well, thank you very much. I'm the chief negotiator for Turkey, and I would like to make a comment on this issue. And thank you very much for this side event. Anyway, that's very constructive and very useful. The things in the world, actually, from industrial development to the sustainable development, it goes like that. And from linear economy to the circular economy. These are two pillars now if you would like to address climate change, or if you would like to combat the climate change. Two issues are the main pillars, actually. from the waste point of view. So that is, the first thing is from industrial revolution to the sustainable development. And another one is, I want to repeat it again, the linear economy to the circular economy. But it changes from one country to another country. It depends on the culture. You know, once when you want to implement the acquis, implement the regulations, rules or regulations. So if the EU friends, okay, they just have one regulation or acquis, for example, they want to implement this regulation in 27 countries or those candidate countries, but the cultures are different. So you have to bear in mind mind of the culture also. So if you write something, then you implement this in every culture, in every nation. That doesn't work. So we have an example of single bag, for example, in the markets. So we just made 25 cents to sell it. That was not that easy. I mean, I remember that I was studying in the Netherlands in 1993. It was in there in that time. But I mean, after 25 years, we wanted to implement this issue in Turkey. But that was not easy. Even one guy who didn't want to buy a single-use plastic bag with the money, they entered the market with donkey. He said, okay, my donkey, because whatever I buy, I put to the donkey, and there was a place for donkey. Then he put everything what he bought from the market, and he didn't. I don't want to buy a single one. He was protesting this 25 cents, 25 penny of Turkish lira. But at the end, after 1 year of implementation, still, when we want to increase this number to this penny 25 cent to 30 cents, it is a tech in Twitter. Says this, you know, this government is trying to thief us. They are trying to get the money 30 cents. Even there was a local elections just after the implementation of this single-use plastic bag. And even the politicians, do you know what they said? We lost the election because of this single-use plastic bag selling. So that is not that easy to implement the issues. You know, EU friends, they say you are a candidate country, you have to implement all the rules and regulation acquis in your country, but we have to be very careful when you are implementing all these issues because of the cultural differences. Yeah. So when you, for example, distribute something free of charge, people, even though they are rich, they come and try. They make queues in order to get one thing, not for themselves, but sometimes for those are in need. For example, they take and give it. So the culture is different. The cultural issues and socially also we have to be very careful when we are implementing this zero waste experiences, and we have to have this lesson learned. We have to share, and this is a good opportunity that you are here sharing from different countries. So I would like to make this kind of comments. Thank you.
So thank you for that. And I'm conscious of time. So as the organisation that implemented our plastic bag or our single-use levy in Scotland, I do understand that. Well, obviously the ministers made the decision, but Zero Waste Scotland implemented it. It was very successful in Scotland because 5 cents. Obviously, we're very thrifty as a nation, so nobody wants to spend money if they have to. Although we were, in the day of implementation, we were all manned thinking there would be fights in the streets, but there wasn't. So ours was slightly easier. But I think that the point you're making, and I agree with it, comes back to the point I think we mentioned around certainly our work with cities and regions, although is about how do we, how do they develop their own strategies around the circular economy. So it's about having a common vision and a common ambition. But it wasn't right for us, in Zero Waste Scotland to go to Glasgow, to go to the North East and tell them how to implement more circular strategies, which are the ones that have more of a priority for them. It was more about the leadership, both at municipality level and in industry in those locations and with citizens to form their own, not just priorities, but their own way of implementing it. So we weren't prescriptive. And I think that for me, because none of us have got the blueprint for the circular future, you know, this is all very new. We're all kind of at the foothills of this. We're all finding our way, which I think is the most, most empowering bit about the circular economy for us in Scotland, is reaching out, talking to Norway, talking to London, talking to Amsterdam, talking to yourselves, is sharing this journey, because all of this is about how we deploy it differently in our different cultures and our different ways, but learning that together. So absolutely, I don't think there is a kind of prescriptive solution to the circular economy. You know, things might work for us, things might work for you, which is why we want to learn. We want to know what you're doing, because if there's things that you're doing we could copy, that sounds great to me. But anyway, I'm very conscious of time. I'm getting the nod. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for spending there with us. Thank you very much. And thank you to my speakers, Pauline, Alex, Fadja.
Thank you.
And thank you, Turkey, for hosting us.
Thank you so much, Ian. I would like to invite you to, through our activity boards, just fill in the blanks and giving your strong messages all over the world, please.
Yes, okay. We have to put something on the board, haven't we? Forgot about this. Really?